What is up, people? It is me, Monster58, and welcome back to another video review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Monsterarts Spacegodzilla Fukuoka Decisive Battle version. This is a re-release of, after doing research, of the 2012 figure, which is crazy considering this figure is 24 years old, but I felt that, I guess that Bandai felt that the figure was good enough to be released, which at the end of the day, I do think so, but it also shows its age in a couple of areas, but we'll get to that when we actually, get to the review. But the main difference that I've noticed between this version as well as the original release 12 years ago is mainly the darker color scheme on the paint as well as the different set of accessories that this gets in comparison to the original release 12 years ago. But it's really crazy to me that they're re-releasing this figure at all, period, but I also understand why, because Spacegodzilla, despite appearing only in one movie in 1994, Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla remains a very popular character, and there are some obvious reasons for that, but the major one I think that's very obvious is just because when you attach the Godzilla moniker to any Godzilla villain, when it's X name and then Godzilla, I assume it'll be very popular. In addition, to my knowledge, from doing research as well, is that Spacegodzilla is one of only two Godzilla villains in the entire franchise that showed any sort of malice and genuine evil. The other one being Destroya, both of them, I believe, laughing when they're either killing Godzilla or killing Godzilla Jr. So some pretty interesting stuff there, but again, when you attach that Godzilla moniker to any villain, especially when it's space and they just called Space Godzilla, it's bound to be popular, and his appearances in a ton of games and other media have shown that he is popular. But enough of me rambling about that. Let's get into the box. The box is very, very pretty, as you can see. Very nice product shots here. Space Godzilla Fukuoka Decisive Battle version. You do have all the Godzilla logos here. You do have the Tamashii Nations and Bandai stuff here. Some more Space Godzilla text up here. Fukuoka Decisive Battle version. Monsterarts. Some more nice product shots here. We have him in the monochromatic, in the black and white Space Godzilla there. On the other side, you do just have some more text, Space Godzilla Fukuoka Decisive Battle version, and then finally you do have your obligatory product shots, which are very, very cool. But I think that is about it for the box, and so push that back there, and without further ado, alrighty, folks, here we have the Monsterarts Space Godzilla Fukuoka Decisive Battle version out of the box, and I gotta say, this guy looks very, very cool. The darker color scheme, however, is something, I don't know, I'm gonna set this guy off to the side here, and I'm gonna throw a picture of Space Godzilla from the movie here, and you tell me whether you like the darker color scheme more or whether you think it's more accurate to the movie. Personally, I am a bit more leaning towards the paint scheme that the original had in terms of the more brightness. I think it's a little more accurate. Yeah, obviously, you guys can leave your comments below telling me what you think about whether this version's color scheme is more accurate, but what I will say is that in terms of the detail, I believe there is some more detail when it comes to some of the paint in general. And so, getting into it, let's look at the details. You can see the very awesome head sculpt. Head sculpt looks fantastic here. You can see those very cool eyes, the little head crest he has. You can see the teeth are painted nicely. You can see even the inside of the mouth is also painted relatively nice. Let's see if that'll focus. Hopefully you guys can see that. Very nice there. The other claws on the side of his face, or, well, I'm guessing those would still be teeth. Then you can see the shading here on the crystals is also very nice. The crystals are like this, the close to this white color. Same thing here on the back. When you look at the back, you can see all of these. This is a major difference, I know, with the original, is that these extra spines here are all this, like, the same color as, like, the brush detail here. They're all this like pinky reddish color. Very, very nice going down through here all the way out throughout the tail. And coming here, you can see all of the, again, he's got this darker color scheme, got the nice sort of dark maroon for the sort of more skin abdomen area here that goes down here through the tail and follows through there. You can see the nice painted claws here on the feet as well as on the hands. Very nice molded detail. You can see all this very cool sculpted in detail there, even on the crystals here on the shoulders as well. You can see like some little, essentially like crystal lava parts here. These are like orangish color. Very, very nice there. You can also see it coming here. You can see it a little more prevalent here, I hope. Like right here. Very, very nice. Overall, when it comes to the detail on this figure, it's honestly a smash hit. And I can't really complain about other on-screen accuracy, anything like that, because it just looks really, really good. And I'm very, very happy with how this figure turned out in terms of its looks. And so, as we're really done looking at the figure as a whole in terms of the details, let us do let's do a comparison. And so we're going to set Mr. Spacegodzilla off to the side here. Alrighty, folks, for our first comparison, I know I said comparison, but we're actually going to do two. First comparison is with the recently released Godzilla -1 from the SH Monsterarts line. When it comes to this Godzilla, I think that it's perfectly fine to scale it with other Godzilla figures, especially in the line, and to get an average idea of what a Godzilla figure should be in terms of the size, right? And so I think that these two scale well together. If you have any other Godzilla figures, Spacegodzilla will scale very well with them. Now, one thing I'd like to address is I know that there was an original release for the Godzilla that pairs along with this Spacegodzilla. However, I wasn't collecting back then, so I never got a chance to buy it. And if you want to buy it now, I believe it's very, very expensive. And so I really do hope that they will release a Godzilla that goes along with this one, like a re-release of it. Would be very cool to have it. But at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily expecting that. But I know that the one figure that they are re-releasing, they're giving us new accessories for it, is Mogira. And funnily enough, speaking of Mogira, alrighty folks, here he is with the SH Monsterarts Mogira. Now you guys might be wondering, where did I get this figure? And hey man, that's not out yet, or something like that. Maybe you're thinking like that. Well, the thing is when it comes to getting this is the actual original Mogira release, all the way back in 2012. Now, how did I get it, you may ask? No, I did not buy it here in the States. Funnily enough, I went to Japan last year. If I don't remember if I mentioned that in the previous video. I think I more than likely did. But when I went to Japan, guess what one of the figures I picked up was? This guy right here, the Mogira. And for those of you who aren't super familiar with the movie, Mogira was sort of the mech that the humans deployed to help Godzilla take down Spacegodzilla. And through their combined efforts, they ended up being able to beat Spacegodzilla. Although, from my understanding, I haven't seen the movie, Mogira was kind of useless. But obviously, you can leave your comments below. Tell me whether Mogira was useless in the movie or not. But here's Mogira. The reason I also picked it up in Japan is because I went to a store called the Mandarake in Tokyo, and I was able to pick this guy up for like a good like $100-200 less than what you would pay here in the States for it. So really, really happy I was able to get this, and these two look fantastic together. I believe this is how they should scale with one another, and I'm very, very happy to have both of these guys in my collection. So really, really cool stuff. I'm glad I was able to bring out Mogira here. Again, just to reiterate, this is not the release that's coming out soon. This is the original release all the way back in around 2012. So yeah. Alrighty folks, and with that all out of the way, let's get into the articulation actually, and this is where this figure, in my opinion, has shown its age a bit. So the head, you have a joint here at the base of the neck, which you can get some side to side here, and then you do have a ball joint here at the head where you can do a full 360, and there goes his head. It's actually the first time his head's popped off. But you can do a full 360. I'll show you guys there. You can do a full 360. As you've seen, to the jaw opens and closes, which is very, very nice. You can get this movement, again, with the help of the base of the neck, as well as the ball joint at the more top of the neck. You do get some wiggle room here. Now, this is where this figure, in my opinion, one of the areas that's showing its age is here in the shoulders. This is all one piece, and so they're not like shoulder pads. They're not like shoulder armor for like a Gundam or something like that, where they move with the arm. They're not like, this isn't one piece and this isn't one piece. This entire thing is one piece, and so all you get for the arms is this. You get this much. And it's not really much at all. And I'm not saying the Godzilla figure should be dynamic, but at least even with like this guy, right, we'll bring this guy in, you can get a full 360. And it would have been nice to have some sort of way to be able to get that. Maybe a little flap can open here or something like that, so you can get the full 360 or get something similar to that. But obviously that's also hampered by his design. But I don't know, I feel that there's a better way that this could have been done to where you could get some more range. But you do get 90 degrees at the elbow, you do get a ball joint wrist, so you can get a full 360 out of that. So you still have solid articulation overall. It's just, it's not as mobile as I would like it to be, considering what is, this is all being one piece. And I feel that these individual crystals with the shoulder pads could have been their own individual pieces to give this more articulation. But again, 12-year-old figure, so I can't. I'm going to say that it's a demerit, but I'm not going to give it as much of a demerit as I'd like to, just due to the fact that it's such an old figure. The other thing else, it comes down here to the, you do get a little bit of waste, by the way. Like I showed, I know you get this, but you get a tiny bit, but not all that much. Here you kick forward about that far, kick back not really all that much. You do get a little bit of wiggle here. You get a small bend at the knee, then you do have a ball joint here in the foot for the ankle, and then you also get the classic tail. But this is the other area where I think it shows a bit of age, although this is perfectly how SH Monsters has done their tails over the years, and there are certainly tails today that are matched to this tail. At the end of the day, there's a lot of tails also today, like specifically I think in the Final Wars one, where you can twist this all the way to the front like this, like you can curl it like that, and with this one you just can't. And luckily mine, I know I watched Diego Doom's review on this figure. His tip of his tail, the last like third of the tail, comes off very easily, and for mine that's not the case. It looks like a QC thing, but for mine it's perfectly fine. But be aware that yours might have that. Also, in addition to that, I forgot to show the spike on the tail is actually very cool, like the crystals on the tail, very, very cool. But yeah, articulation is where this figure definitely is hampered by its age, in terms of its design of the figure. But again, I'm not going to give it as much of a demerit because the mold itself is so old, but you have to understand that this does have limited articulation. Again, my biggest complaint is I just wish that these were kind of able to rotate and they were separate pieces from the entire upper body part so that you could get more movement out of it. But again, such an old figure, I'm not going to beat over the head too much on that specific articulation demerit. So other than that, it still can move decently well. But again, another argument I'll have for the lack of articulation, if you want to, is the fact that he's not a dynamic character. Like, sure, he has some like he can use his arms in some way with telekinesis and whatever in the movie, but at the end of the day, it's not like he's pulling off like hero landing poses and stuff like that, right? These are monsters. They're not human. They're humanoid-ish, but not humanoid. They're not human characters, so I can forgive it for that. Alrighty, folks, and with that out of the way, the last thing I'd like to talk about actually is the accessories, and he does come with them. Very, very nice, and I'm very happy, although I do wish that there were more, but he does come with some cool ones, and the two that I'd like to show off first are actually these battle damage crystals. I assume in the movie, Godzilla or Mogira breaks him at some point, and this reduces his power. It's very easy to remove these and put these on, so all you gotta do is pull these off. Like so. They're in there pretty tight, actually. And then for this one, I think it's this side. I think it is this side. Yep, and then you put them on like that, and you just got to match up those tabs to the tabs here. And there you go. Now you have his battle damage, which is pretty cool, and I think that that's a really cool look. And then you see the darker color. I'll even take one off so you can see it's a darker color here. Very, very nice. I really do like how that looks. It adds to, the accessory as a whole. I think the nice paint job in comparison to, you can see them side by side here. They are very different in terms of their color. It's more like this color here at the bottom, completely enveloping the entire crystal. So yeah, we're going to remove these and I'll show off the other accessories. This one in particular on his left shoulder, my right and your right, is on pretty tight, but in see if, wait, that's not how that's supposed to go. Should be something like this. If not, this is the wrong side. That's the only one thing that, there you go. Okay, that's fine. And then dropping stuff again, as per usual. Mr. Drop, Mew Monster 50 and Mr. Drops a lot. Last thing I'll show are these. These are actually electrocution like effect parts. So he uses the crystals. They help him like charge up his power. And so all you got to do if you want to replicate that is you just chuck them on like this, and then you can replicate that, and that's very cool. There's only two accessories I wish this had. And someone actually pointed out in a comment recently on my Shizuoka, I think, Decisive Battle version, the 1991 Godzilla, the one where he fights Mecha King Ghidorah. Someone pointed out recently, left a comment talking about how, like, I think what Bandai expects is that people have the original release and they use the beam effects that they give in the original releases instead, so that's why they don't add them, which I in a way I understand, but you're also charging a gazillion dollars for these figures. So like, could you give us something that just isn't the figure, right? Like along with it, like a beam effect or something like that. Like that was something that someone pointed out. And for me, there's two accessories. One of them that Diego Doom pointed out, and one of them that I was also thinking of is the one I'd like is the Corona Beam. I know that it was in the original release, and obviously this release and the previous release are different releases, and they're probably going to want to give accessories for that. But it would have been nice to have his Corona Beam, you know, his essentially his atomic breath, right? And the other thing I'd like to also talk about is the monster-sized crystals, because I believe in the movie, because this is how it is in the games, I played a ton of the games, you could use Spacegodzilla to grow monster-sized crystals, and then what they could do is they could attack monsters. He would command them with like electricity or beams or energy effects that would essentially hurt other monsters. And so I would have liked one or two, you know, monster-sized crystals would have been nice to have. But again, it is nice the accessories they give us, but at the same time, I do wish there was more. And the reason I also wish there was more is because of the price. This is not a cheap figure. This was like 160, 170 after taxes and shipping. And at the end of the day, although I do think that this feels heavy, it feels good to handle. The articulation, for the most part, is there. Again, I'm not going to knock off on it too hard because it's a 12-year-old figure, and it does come with some solid accessories. I can't help but think that there is still a little bit missing that's worth your $170 or so that you're going to be paying for this guy. But again, the accessories are nice, and I still think the figure is really good. It's just that price, I know it's going to tip a lot of people off. So make of that what you will, but there are the accessories. I think they're very cool. Here, we can even take a look at some of these. These are they're very well done. I wish there may be a bit more shading on these, but for the most part, very, very cool accessories overall, and I can't complain too much about any lack of accessories because this guy does come with some really cool ones. Alrighty, folks, so for my final and concluding thoughts on the SH Monsterarts Spacegodzilla Fukuoka Decisive Battle version from the 1994 film Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla, this is a solid figure overall, but not without its faults. So for its faults, the articulation is definitely lacking in certain areas, specifically in the shoulders and in the arms. I also think the legs are a bit more tight and a little more cumbersome in comparison to like legs nowadays. I think they're a little more tight and a little more rigid comparison. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but you guys might only understand if you've handled a ton of figures across like both areas or at least a good amount of them. And also the tail is lacking in articulation. I also think that the paint scheme, although cool, I do prefer actually kind of the lighter color scheme of the original, but this does come with many benefits. The shading on this, specifically on the crystals, is really nice. I do like how on the crystals on his spine, essentially his spires on his back, they are all different. You know, they have there's the white ones, but there's also the ones where they're all like this pinkish reddish gradient. That's very, very cool to match the crystals. I also think the fact that he comes with accessories is very, very cool, and the fact that he comes with good ones. He comes with these, you know, beam effects right here, or these like electricity effects, and he also comes with obviously these battle damage crystals if you want for that display. I like options for a display. In addition to that, I will also say that this guy feels good, and all of the paint that isn't just like the crystals or the abdomen area is very good. You know, like the teeth are painted very well. I think the mouth is painted very well. The eyes for this guy, for my copy at least, are very, very nice. I do like the head crest as well. That little, you know, big orange star on top of his head, whatever you want to call it. Very, very cool stuff. So overall, the last thing holding this thing back, I'd say, is the price. It is a very expensive figure. This is not cheap. And when it comes to me recommending this figure to you guys, if you have the money, you can drop it, and I definitely would recommend to, because if you want to buy the original, it's very expensive as well. But at the end of the day, yes and no, I do recommend it. Yes, because I do think that this is a figure that you should pick up, especially if you didn't get the original. And also, I do think it's a good figure, but it's just, man, that price, even with the accessories, I still feel like there is something missing. And so out of a 10, I'm going to give this thing around a 7 or an 8. Probably an 8 as a figure. It's just, you could obviously knock it down to 7 because of the price. And I think that that is completely fair and understandable. That is a very understandable thing to talk about when it comes to this figure. Is just that price is very, very steep. And so I did pick mine up on the Big Bad Toy Store, so leave a link in the description to that. Also, see if I can find an Amazon listing so you guys can also find it there as well. But yeah, I think that's about it. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends, and also follow me on the socials. Those will be linked down in the description below. And once again, I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I will catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.